back him up. Elam is going to try this, and it will be a 60, let's call it 63-yard attempt. Spotted at the Bronco 47-yard line. Snap a little hot. Elam's kick. Oh, the line drive. It's got enough distance.
Hello, and welcome to the Long Distance Kicks podcast. My name is Rhett. I'm with my brother Ian, and we are going live. We are officially live. This is off the ground. Ian, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good, man. I'm excited to get started. I think that's a bit of a power move that you just started talking over Dave Logan there at the end. But hey, we're ready to go. So let's do
Listen,
it.
Dave Logan went pro in multiple sports, but he has not gone pro on this specific podcast. So he's going to have to get in line. This
Touche.
is a podcast, and we're going to be covering the Broncos. We're going to be covering the NFL. We're going to be covering the draft and covering a little bit of whatever else. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm the voice of the fan here. I love football. I grew up watching it. We have been, my brother and I both been Broncos fans all growing up. But Ian, you're going to be more of our expert. You keep track of the draft all year long. You know what the passing concepts and whatnot are called, and that's really cool. And we like talking about the Broncos, and we just want to hang out and talk some ball. And so today, Ian, how does it feel being a Broncos fan that actually has hope going into a season for once?
It feels really nice. That feels kind of foreign. We have had a team that has been chronically mediocre to below average for the better part of a decade. So I'm excited. And it's hard, like a little bit of context. So, Rhett lives up in New England area. He lives in New Hampshire. I live in rural Missouri, right in the middle of Chiefs Kingdom. And it's been tough because the Chiefs have been a dynasty. The Broncos have been anything but that. However, that being said, last year we saw a little something. We
Last
saw a
year we
little
had it.
something. We got to the postseason. That's a big step. A team full of players that, when you think about it, a lot of our homegrown guys, Garrett Bowles, Cortland Sutton, some of those dudes,
Mhm.
they had never been to the postseason. They don't know what it means to win at a consistent level, and this was huge this last season. Being able to get to that postseason, to get in that psyche of these players a little bit of like, hey, we expect to be good, and Sean Payton's been trying to reinforce that this offseason. So
Yeah, it's been exciting. Obviously, the turnaround, like you said, Sean Payton had a big thing to do with it. I think new ownership has a big piece to do with it. I mean, I remember it being just absolutely devastating back in like 2018, 2019, looking around and being like, we don't have any owners, we don't have a good GM, we don't have a good coach, we don't got a quarterback, we don't have anything. And now I feel like we have the ownership. Our GM and our head coach are able to get us there, I think, at this point. And today we're going to be talking about the last piece in that puzzle, our beloved quarterback, Bo Nix. And today we're going to talk about the expectations for Bo coming in. Um, and what it's meant for the team and what we want to see going into year two. So let's start. Ian, tell me about what did you see in Bo before draft night, before that fateful evening in April last year, whenever he became a Denver Bronco.
So the draft, and Rhett alluded to this earlier, the draft is like my favorite thing. I think I like it more than the regular season, to be honest. But I always try. I'm not an expert by any stretch, but I always try to watch as many players as I can. It was an interesting class because as I was watching them in the spring leading up to the draft, my thought was this can be a pretty special quarterback class. What's interesting about that is I did not see Bo Nix as one of those quarterbacks making it a special class. I don't have
Yeah.
my rankings pulled up, but I know I had Caleb QB1, and then I think Drake May was my quarterback too, and then Jaden Daniels,
He
and then
was, yeah.
I think I had McCarthy and then Penix, and Bo was after all those guys, and coincidentally, Bo went after all those guys. Yeah, as far as like pre-draft stuff, I did not love him. In hindsight, that doesn't look great, but I mean, we all, all you can do is be honest, right? I heard everyone talk about how his strengths were he's a great mental processor and he made quick decisions. And I kind of came from it with the approach of I don't know that that's necessarily very easy to see on tape per se.
Mhm.
And I mistakenly so, I just attributed that more to the scheme at Oregon that he was playing in that set him up to get the ball out of his hands quickly. I thought his arm strength was good. I didn't think it was a howitzer, okay, but I didn't think his arm was weak or anything. I thought it was perfectly fine arm. I just didn't see a lot of throws he made at Oregon that I would have called NFL throws. I thought he was a good athlete. That was pretty obvious, but I didn't think like, oh, this kid, he's going to be a consistent running threat at the next level. Derek Klassen, I think, uh, Derek Klassen, he co-hosts, I think, the Athletic Football Show now with Robert
Yeah.
Mays. Really great. One of my favorite football guys. He described him. I don't know if this was something he wrote or if something I heard him said, but he said Bo Nix is a perfectly cromulent quarterback prospect, which is a good way to put it. Like, yeah, he's perfectly fine, And my thing was, I didn't think Bo Nix was going to be, playing in the CFL. I just thought like, oh yeah, he's probably a backup to spot starter. I don't want to spend my first round pick, especially top half of the first round, on a cromulent prospect, right?
Mhm.
And in fact, last year, I mean, you and I were together, like
Yeah.
leading up to, we went on a trip to Denver together, and we were talking leading up to the draft, like we don't want Bo Nix, like we
No.
hope we don't, we don't want to take Bo Nix, and it was hard because there was that Bo Nix, Sean Payton speculative noise that was just getting louder and louder.
Yes.
Um,
Oh, and
yeah,
hated hearing that. I did not want to hear those reports.
he's gonna find his Drew Brees. Like Bo Nix is his next Drew Brees, and it reached a crazy level. And then like fans understand this. Like right after your team drafts a player that you don't love, you despair for a little bit, and then you start to look for like all the points of optimism, right?
Yeah.
Well, Sean Payton loves this guy, and he knows a heck of a lot more than me, which is true. But then I try to do that. I try to think positive, but then I'd hear all these ridiculous stories, like the backpack. You remember the backpack story here? Let's talk
Yes.
about this for a minute. This was ridiculous. So Sean Payton and his team, his coaching staff, they have a private workout with Bo. Okay, and while they're talking to Bo, I don't remember if it was before or after his throwing session. Sean Payton asks him, "Can I look in your backpack?" And you know what he finds? He finds a tennis ball that Bo like rubs on his sore muscles and some ankle tape, all these things, and it's just workout stuff, right? This guy's he's all work, he's all about the grind, and I'm just sitting here like, yeah, he was headed to a private workout. Like that's
It's
a crazy concept that everything in his backpack was workout related. That's
it's
stories like that. People love those. I can't stand stories like that.
dude,
So
it's
it yeah, go ahead.
it's his workout bag. Like I was thinking about that. Like what prospects came through did they like go to like look at JJ McCarthy and like he had like some sort of like
He had
totem spirit thing in his bag for
he
his
had a bag of he had
meditations?
a bag of Gardettos in there, and they were like,
Yeah,
"Oh,
some
come on,
Cordettos.
this."
I think back in the day, probably Paxton Lynch had like a Nintendo Switch in
Oh, yeah,
there,
for sure.
or something like that. But
And I'm
no,
not.
I
Let me
I
let me be clear. At no point did I think Bo Nix wasn't that type of guy. Like I knew he was a hard worker. He seemed like the character stuff all seemed to check out. I just stories like that are just annoying to me, but people eat them up,
they're
So
just ridiculous. And
yeah,
I remember beforehand vehemently not wanting Bo Nix on our team. Remembering him from back in Auburn, to be honest, punchable face was my first thought when he was young kid on the block, and he was kind of crowned as like the next big thing, at least for Auburn, coming out of college. And
right.
I don't like Auburn. and I was like, this kid, like, who is he?
Well, and his dad played quarterback for Auburn in years past,
Yeah.
and so there's a legacy thing there. Always high expectations.
And so much was made that he was a freshman and it was a big deal that he was a starter. And I just didn't think he was a very good quarterback. It was all chaos. It was all backyard, just making stuff up. And it just felt like he was. I just remember my thoughts on Auburn Bo Nix was just like I watched him and I was like, I don't. This cat can't. He can't locate his fastball. Like he's all over the place. He's wild. Like he just doesn't feel like an NFL quarterback. And then I forgot about him for like a couple years, like the second and third year at Auburn. Like I just didn't care. And he shows up in Oregon, and I remember when he was getting first got like draft buzz, being shocked at what I was hearing. That, oh well, I mean, the problem is that he's incredibly accurate, but he's a system quarterback. And I was like, that's not who I saw at Auburn. Who are we talking
No,
about?
no, not at all. It's
Yeah.
interesting going back in hindsight, and again, it's hindsight.
Hmm.
So now when I go back and I look at those games when he was in college, it's way easier to see the positives because of what we've seen his rookie year. But the quarterback at Auburn, like we don't give Bo enough credit for how he came to Oregon and completely reinvented his game.
Yeah.
Um, like it and listen, we're kind of performing this autopsy on our pre-draft view on him. Like
Hmm.
something I think we both overlooked. The dude had what 63 collegiate starts. I mean,
Hmm.
he came into the league having a lot of reps at the college level. And
Hmm.
I mean, I don't think there's any coincidence you saw that with Jaden Daniels too, who had also an excellent, I mean, rookie of the year.
Yeah.
And so we probably overlooked that a little bit. And obviously, it's still very early in his career. The jury is still very much out, but it looks like we could be wrong, and I'm pretty happy about that.
Yeah, and I mean, moving along from that, this prospect where it was like, is he a wild, shotgun spraying gunslinger? Is he the system quarterback with the noodle arm? I know we sort of not disagree about this, but like I feel like I remember a whole lot more people thinking he didn't have a strong arm coming out of college, which I think is
It
just
was it was a
ridiculous.
it was a criticism, and
Yeah,
yeah, I mean, I'm not going to sit here and tell you I think he has an elite arm, but at no point did I watch him and think the problem's going to be his arm strength. Like, no, that was not
yeah.
something I was concerned
I
about.
just I don't understand where that came from. I believed it. So listen, like I was like, oh, I guess he doesn't have a strong arm. Like I just remember, like,
They
I
were
was
so
assuming that
convincing in their argument.
the men on Twitter told me. Uh, and he comes in and rookie year. What did you see from rookie year one, Bo Nix?
Well, overall, I was encouraged. You might remember I said probably during like training camp or whatever last year. I feel like you and I were talking, and I said, "Man, his first two games are going to be just awful." Because think about it, he's going on the road to Seattle, which is Mike McDonald coach defense, and
Yeah.
Seattle's just a hard place to play regardless. And then we're playing Pittsburgh, and I mean, anytime you think of Pittsburgh, you think of physical defense, even if that's not necessarily the case right now. It's not the same as years past. But that's just a hard team to go up against when you're young, and he did. He really struggled. We saw, especially in Seattle, we saw him. He was vacating pockets. He was getting real skittish with his legs. He in Pittsburgh, like I feel like I see everybody share like Bo Nix rookie season highlights, and they always put that pass to Josh Reynolds where it was like I want to say it was a flea flicker, right?
Hmm.
And then Bo hit Josh Reynolds, but it was like way underthrown. Josh Reynolds had to like completely stop and turn around. It was not pretty. And I remember what's so weird about it is I feel like I talked to people who they were excited about Bo, and I was skeptical about Bo going in. But then after those two games, I almost felt like I was on more of the positive end of like, well, yeah,
Hmm.
this is what I expected. And then honestly, man, like going into Tampa was huge because it showed like the game was starting to slow down for him a little bit. He made some really nice anticipation throws. And then we started to see that throughout the course of the season. The Jets game, obviously, he struggled a little bit. Like, go look up, even just looking up his box score, you can tell.
No,
But
that Jets game was disgusting.
he made a super uh, belligerent throw to Cortland Sutton that was so important to seal the game. And they were basically playing in like a hurricane, anyways. But we saw like Bo start to really settle in more and more. And he wasn't going out there and it wasn't like he was this superhuman or anything, but he was running the offense like a vet, and he was doing well. And I alluded to his athleticism earlier, which I thought was like good, but wasn't going to be a huge factor in the next level. Completely wrong about that. From the very beginning, Bo showed, man, this
Hmm.
this kid can move. He can move. It's not only can he move, but it is a part of his game that is a weapon. Um, and so I was very encouraged, man. I really think like one once by the time it felt like by the time we hit that Falcons game, Bo had just kind of he was rolling, man. He had settled in,
Hmm.
and it things weren't perfect. I mean, he some of those footwork issues remained throughout the season. He will have to continue to work on those. It seemed like, and I'm not like a film guru, it seemed like he was still vacating pockets when he didn't have to,
Hmm.
things like that. I remember the Saints game, which overall, like we were still kind of on the there's a slow upswing happening
Yeah.
here. He's been bad. Probably my least favorite rep from him was early in the Saints game. We were driving, and Bo, I think Kroll is coming up underneath, and then maybe Mims is further up. I don't remember if it's Mims or
Hmm.
maybe Troy Franklin. And Bo kind of throws and just kind of lands right in the no man's land, right in the middle of those
Yeah.
two players. And that was a little embarrassing because that was a primetime game. Things like that will pop up with Bo.
Hmm.
But overall, if you look at where he started, if you look at what Sean Payton is asking him to do and what he's going to continue to ask him to do, I think Bo started to run this system like a vet. And coincidentally, you see the Broncos as a team start to succeed. And so overall, I was super encouraged. I'd love to hear your thoughts, though.
Yeah. I mean, I I enjoyed watching him really like looking in because again beforehand I did not want Denver to have him, and so I was avoiding even like kind of looking and thinking about Bo Nix as an option. I was trying to kind of wish him away, and when we really got into it, what I saw was a quarterback who it seems like the way that he processes is he is the guy in school who gets an A on the test, but also like has to show up and be in class and pay attention and be writing down his notes and like has to do all the academic things, um,
Yeah.
but will get an A. And then if you ask him, if he's not prepared in the moment, like he's gonna do, like maybe doesn't test as well or whatever, would much rather maybe have papers and whatnot instead of like pop quizzes or whatever, where um, you got to see you saw that a lot where he
Yep.
was, I think the first several weeks was just not feeling confident about what he was seeing, and it was
Hmm.
causing him to get skittish and to run. And then over time, he went through kind of the worst of it. And
Yep.
about that Saints game and on, you started to see w- this process, like Sean Payton's vision work out, where I
Yeah.
don't think we actually saw Bo Nix become like a star NFL quarterback, but we saw a kid who was able to prepare for the test well, show up and kind of know what was going on and feel comfortable being out on the field playing football and the speed of the game. And Sean Payton called plays that got him open guys. I mean,
Hmm.
I have not watched since Peyton Manning a Broncos offense where we saw as many just receivers running open downfield for Bo Nix to hit, um,
Sure.
as compared to other offenses. And the cool thing was yeah, as he started using his legs more often, as he was being able to just do his job, then we're getting a little bit more of some of the Auburn Bo Nix. There were some of those plays further on down the season where you see a little bit of, okay, he did a little bit of off script, but it's not consistent yet. So you see a quarterback that if he doesn't make the right guess pre-snap, I don't think he's going to end up with a positive play. I think he needs to be pretty confident about what he's seeing pre-snap, and um, with a Sean Payton offense, that's kind of all you need. You just need him to not, on those plays where he doesn't know it, they need to not become interceptions, and he's good at not turning the ball over. So you got a player who didn't didn't put the ball into bad spots, and um, got the yardage that was there and kind of executed the offense as expected. And then every once in a while had a little bit of razzle dazzle. But honestly, there wasn't a ton of those plays in the past game where it was like, oh my goodness, he made a guy miss and then found, it was that was with his legs was,
Yeah.
if it doesn't work, then run. And it was a good formula because he, like, the first 20% of the season, he didn't have a touchdown pass, and he ends with like what, 29?
Yeah,
Like
and I think that there were a couple moments in particular that kind of shifted the overall narrative on Bo in his rookie year. I think the first one was, I believe it was the first Raiders game
mhm.
where, obviously we've all talked about it at length, where he gets in Sean Payton's face. And I don't remember the context of something about the play that like Sean was upset about, and
Yeah.
Bo gets in his face. And that was a moment. But then also the 93-yarder to Marvin Mims against Cleveland in prime time was
Hmm.
just it was a thing that we had seen in the game against Atlanta. Bo had a throw. You might remember this one too, where he
Yes.
ripped it between the two safeties, and it was just I'm standing up in my seat. Bo, I was not familiar that you had that in your bag. And then he does it again, and I just remember thinking in that moment, watching the game, like, oh, we're backed up in our end zone. Like, this is not going to pan out well. Like, I'm going to feel relieved if we just get to punt it away.
Yeah.
And he steps up and he rips that thing to Marvin. And there were so many people saying, like, well, just a couple more inches off and it would have been intercepted by Denzel Ward, or I think it was Ward covering him. And it's like,
Mhm.
but it wasn't, though. It wasn't 2 inches off. It was where it needed to be. So it's like, yeah, that's true. If it was inaccurate, it wouldn't have been complete.
Yeah.
That's crazy. But that moment, I know for me personally, I needed to see a moment like that where Bo
Hmm.
just the situation was dire and he stepped back and he let it rip, and we saw a good result from that. I think those moments, maybe coupled with the second Raiders game where he got in like Tyree Wilson's face and was like, "I don't fear nothing" or something.
Yeah.
There were just all these little moments throughout the season where I just thought, man, I think I was wrong about this kid, and
Yeah.
that's some great news for
And
us.
and I think
So
that's the thing, is it totally has changed. Is now we can move into the year two projection
yeah.
for Bo Nix. What should we expect from him coming into year two? What's the ceiling, and maybe what's reasonable going into year two? What should we be looking for?
Yeah, well, listen, I mean, everyone's familiar with the term sophomore slump. We understand that that's always something that can happen. I think people would argue, excuse me, that CJ Stroud had a sophomore slump. I still think he was excellent. But I mean, if you look at his stats, it was great. It's like, yeah, he had Nico Collins and Tank Dell missing significant time.
Mhm. Bobby
Uh,
Slowick had a sophomore slump.
yeah, shout out PFF Bobby. Uh, yeah, I Here's why I think Bo Nix will continue to find success in year two. First of all, I think him and Sean, as much as I didn't like the noise pre-draft, man, they are so much on the same wavelength. It is
Hmm.
crazy. I think these are two guys that, like, they're not in the offseason like, like, Bo, what do you think you need to improve on? Oh, geez, I don't know. Like, these are two real sharp guys. They're going to know the things that Bo needs to work on. They're going to be working on his footwork. They're going to be working on some other issues, placement issues, and whatever he needs to be working on. Um, we had a weird, um, sorry, this is kind of going back into last year again,
That's
this
okay.
weird comparison happening multiple times. I heard it talked about on podcasts. I have no idea if this was something that was had a Twitter presence at all. But like Mac Jones kept getting brought up for Bo because Bo was starting to find success and people were saying things to the effect of, well, let's just remember, Broncos fans, Mac Jones had a pretty solid and promising rookie season. And then the next year it didn't work out so well. Listen, Mac Jones, yeah, he had a solid rookie year. First of all, it was not as Mac Jones was solid. Bo's was extra solid, brother. Okay, we're talking about like I think we're talking about like what 34, 33, 34 total touchdowns.
Yeah.
Not neither here nor there. But also, if I'm not mistaken, you can fact check me on this. I could be wrong about this, but Mac Jones went into his second year with, uh, I want to say Matt Patricia calling
It
his
was Matt
plays.
Patricia.
I wanted to,
Yes.
I was like, is it Joe Judge or Matt? I couldn't remember.
No. Yeah.
Uh, and like Bo Nix is going into year two with Sean Payton as his play caller,
Hmm.
coming off of a year where he scored 34 total touchdowns. Um,
Mm.
I'm not saying that Bo Nix is going to be a top 8, top 10 quarterback. I'm not saying he's going to make an all pro. I have a really hard time believing that he is going to regress, even if the box score, even if the stat sheet maybe suggests
Hmm.
that he does. I expect him to improve. I expect, uh, listen, him and Cortland Sutton, what a rapport they had, and I think that will continue. I think that we got to, before our very eyes, we got to see his relationship on the field with Marvin Mims really blossom, which was awesome. And some of that was just like Sean just really figuring out how to use that guy
Hmm.
too. I mean, that is,
Hmm.
I loved the usage for him. You want to see him and Troy Franklin start to really develop that rapport too. Devon Vele feels like he's going to be solid. I think that the most important thing, though, because we can talk about weapons and we can talk about Sean Payton all day. The other side of the ball for the Denver Broncos, nasty, absolutely filthy. And the big guys up front protecting Bo, nasty, filthy. If you give your young quarterback a great, not a good, not a solid, the Denver Broncos have a great offensive line.
Yes, sir.
The Denver Broncos do not have a great defense. They have an elite defense that they
Mm.
only add Jade Barron, Talanoa Hufanga, Dre Greenlaw. Okay. Those are, in my opinion, the best things you can give a young quarterback is a great defense that's not gonna you're not gonna have to go out there and score 34 every week, but also an offensive line that's full of veterans that are gonna give him the time he needs to run this offense that is predicated on timing. I don't want to sound like a homer, but based on what I am seeing, I expect improvement in Bo. Now, just want to reemphasize, I don't know if that necessarily means improvement on the stat sheet. I have no idea. You could ask me, Ian, how many touchdowns versus interceptions do you think Bo's going to? I have no clue. Okay, I don't know because hopefully we're running the ball more. With some of the additions we made, Dobbins and Harvey and everything like that. I don't care so much about what does the stat sheet look like, but I think if we watch Bo next year, we are going to see continued growth in year two. So
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot. I mean, that's what I think. I think as a prospect, as a first year quarterback, the things that Bo Nix brings to the table is the fact that he has a very, very high floor. And the stuff that he is already good at is a lot of the stuff that I think causes the sophomore slump with quarterbacks is the league gets tape out on you and they start forcing you into the stuff you're uncomfortable with. They start trying to like the they start off playing checkers and then it goes to chess and they're just not quite ready or something like that.
mm-hmm.
I don't see those things being what's going to trip Bo Nix up. He is a very smart quarterback, and like you said, his situation is like it's nature versus nurture. And I mean, the nurture side, you could not ask for a better situation. We had the statistically like the worst running back room in the league, and all the metric stats show we had a great offensive line, busting open holes, and Javonte Williams either couldn't find or couldn't run through the hole physically. Uh,
Yeah,
we just the running back room we had, the running game wasn't there, and so a lot of what we saw was this Broncos offense operating even without some of the hallmarks of a lot of the great Sean Payton offenses of the past, where there was a strong running game paired with a very surgical passing game. That running game is going to be back. Sean Payton is going into year two. The Broncos are going into year two, and there's a lot of differences. Last year, the locker room believed in this young kid that he could possibly
mm-hmm.
be something. This year, the locker room is excited.
Yeah,
This year, the defense last year was like willing to like show up and like try to show out to make sure that the offense, they got a rookie, they may be looking to us. This year,
Yeah.
that defense knows that if we go get the ball, this offense will score. Last year, Sean Payton was calling his shot with Bo Nix and was trying to figure out how to install an offense. And this year, he's got a whole offseason of just drawing up plays, just being maniacal and the evil genius that Sean Payton is, like just dreaming up ways to get his guys the football. Like he's
Yeah.
added RJ Harvey. He's excited to figure out how to get him
Yeah.
going. He's added Evan Ingram. He's trying to figure out how to get the ball to Evan Ingram. He is just so excited about Pat Bryant, his new
Well, let me tell you, Michael
his new
Thomas 2.0,
his new favorite receiver. Um, I
apparently.
I think I think that I think that going into year two, we should see um, the big change. Like you said, I don't know if there's going to be an improvement in the stat sheet. I would say it's probably not going to happen. Like he had a
He
really
threw
good
he
year.
threw 29 touchdown passes last year.
Like that's it's
The,
a it's going to be hard for him to improve, but
yeah.
the intangible things, like I think last year the Broncos were like halfway through the season, we're like, oh, I think we actually can do this. Like it wasn't until the towards the end of the year where they started to like they walked with swagger. They knew it going in. Like now it's a Sean Payton team that like we know we are just going to kick your butt up and down the field like we are going to be more physical. We're going to be more nasty. We are going to
Yeah.
be like borderline dirty as a team on either side of the ball to win it. It's and Bo Nix is going to step in and I think you're going to see a more confident, a more calm, a more in command quarterback in year two. So,
I agree, man. This is not something that necessarily like I just made fun of everybody making a lot of the backpack story, and maybe this is me reading it. I was shown a clip of Bo and a lot of the Broncos guys went to a Nuggets game last season,
hmm
and it was Vic Lombardi. He like pulled Bo Nix aside, and I think Cortland Sutton was standing right next to him, and Vic was just asking Bo and Cortland some questions, and the way like Bo was like joking around with Cortland and stuff like they're talking about like yeah he can't shoot like in basketball Cortland can't shoot and messing with him and like he just kind of turn around and like ribbing some of the other guys a little bit and you just see like this continual uh development into this is one of the boys, this is like one
hmm
of the leaders of this team, and that will only help him. I do think an uh, important point to raise because again this was a really this is an extremely promising class of young quarterbacks going into their second year
hmm
because I mean again Jaden Daniels was terrific, deservedly the offensive rookie of the year. I know a lot of our fellow Broncos fans would really pound the table that Bo should be. I think let's just be honest, like Jaden Daniels deserved to win that. Okay, as much as we were pleased with Bo, Drake May I thought really showed a lot of nice stuff. um, when Penix got in, brother, I mean, he was ripping it. And Caleb, I've heard so many people talk about Caleb as if he's like a bust or something. The dude had 20 touchdowns and 6 interceptions. Like he had a really good rookie season. That was just a dysfunctional franchise. So the reason
yeah,
I bring all this up is because and then of course obviously JJ McCarthy we didn't get to see, but we're excited to see what he can do this next year. My point is it's going to be really easy probably for the a big portion of their careers to kind of form your perception off of each of them based off of what the other ones in that group are doing. And
hmm
I think it's important for us to remember like Bo Nix taking the next step in year two has nothing to do with what Jaden Daniels does or like what Caleb Williams does under Ben Johnson or how JJ McCarthy does now that he's apparently going to be the starter and help. Like it has nothing to do with those things. And
hmm
of course we're gonna compare. That's just what they do in sports media and stuff. Of course, we're all gonna compare. Uh, but it's important for us to remember that Bo's success or failure is separate of what those other guys are doing. So
yeah. There's room enough for everyone to eat. I'll say it's only episode one, but I can tell you that here at Long Distance Kicks, we are a quarterback positive podcast. We
we
want to
we
see. We want to see good quarterback play
We love
across
the
the board.
QBs. What can I
We
say?
love it. We love
We
it.
love the QBs.
Yeah, we don't need Mahomes to play well. He's played well enough. He's good. He can take a year off. But it's time for us to transition to
Okay.
segment two. And um, how we like to transition is we just like to be a couple guys that will just literally sit around and just name a random football player and go, yeah. So, um,
Mm,
Ian,
Lance Briggs. Mm,
Lance Briggs. Oh my goodness, this
good
the
player.
Chicago guy.
Good player.
Um, yeah, I'm gonna say was it Quinn Glover, the
Yeah,
Lions save
Glover Quinn. Yeah, he
Glover
was a
Quinn.
dog.
Yeah,
He was a dog. Yeah. Okay.
Glover Quinn
Okay.
back in the day. Uh,
No, this is not. This
some
is not what the segment is. This is not what the
No,
segment is.
that's not the segment, but that's our transition. And we're gonna play a game that I have dubbed "Heading Up" or "Tailing Off." It's gonna be a way for us to just take a look around the rest of the league and get ourselves prepared as we head back towards training camp is right around the corner, and most of the off season I would say is done. We are now kind of into the preseason part of the year, heading into that. The transactions are over, and we're going to take a look around the league, and we're just going to see is each team, are they heading up in the world? Are they going to do better than their record last year, or will they be tailing off and doing worse? And the way that we're going to decide is Ian's going to call heads or tails, and if he gets ahead, if now I have to decide, is it?
So, hey, can I step in? From what
Yeah.
my understanding is, you're going to give me a team, and then you're going to flip a coin, and if it's heads, stop me if I'm wrong here. If it's heads, I
No,
talk
that that
about why they're on the up and up. And if it's tails,
that works a
then
lot better.
uh,
That works a lot better.
is that makes the most sense to me.
Yes, that actually does make more sense. I was like, he's gonna call it, and then actually, wait, no. So we're gonna start off the Chicago Bears. Ian, I'm gonna flip for you.
Speaking of Lance Briggs,
Yeah, speak. It's
shout
all
out Lance
coming
Briggs,
together, baby.
friend of the podcast.
Friend of the pod, yeah.
Maybe
Lance Briggs, let us know. Let us know.
Lance
We
Briggs,
love
come
you.
on the show, brother.
You are our favorite Chicago Bears linebacker of all time. You were the real one on that team. All right. Here we go. Ian, tell me why the Bears are heading up.
The Bears are heading up. I'm glad. I'm glad it landed on headed up because I do actually think the Bears are headed up. They're 5-12 last year, so I'm not saying. I mean, it's hard to win every week in the NFL, but I do think like we could kind of summarize this with one name, Ben Johnson. Okay, anybody who's anybody knows Ben Johnson was
Mhm.
the name in the coaching cycle this last year. The work he has put in the last few years as the play caller for the Lions speaks for itself. He is creative. He has just this football mind that is evident anytime you hear him talk. I am excited to see what he can do with Caleb Williams, who all due respect to Jared Goff, of whom I am a big fan, and I think
Mhm.
Jared Goff is a very good quarterback. Caleb just got a little bit more talent to him, and I'm excited to see what Ben can do with that. Again, Caleb being a guy that I did not think was bad by any stretch. I thought he had a good rookie season, so I'm excited to see what he can do. I think you have to point to some of their offseason transactions. They spent big money on their O line, as you should. You kind of just every year in free agency, teams sign the bigger names at O line,
Mhm.
and everyone comes in with like, "Oh man, holy overpay." Listen, you gotta overpay. First of all, in any position in free agency, you gotta overpay, especially with offensive line. They had guys, Drew Dalman, kind of like a lot of people believe the top center on the market this past year. Did they trade for Joe Tooney? Right, I believe
Yes.
they traded
Yes,
for
they
Joe
traded for Joe
Tooney,
Tooney.
who still got good football in him. And then I think they also traded for Jonah Jackson
They did
from
indeed.
the
Yes.
Rams. So they have like shored up that offensive interior. They have made like when I think about some of the talent on that team, Odunze, who I loved Odunze coming out of the draft when he came out of the draft. This last year they took one of my guys, Colston Loveland. I had him as tight end 1 over Tyler Warren. I love Colston Loveland. I love the 6'6" guy who can move fluidly like a receiver. I think his the whole he can't block is way overstated.
It's ridiculous. He plays like a maniac.
Harbaugh would not have recruited him to Michigan if he couldn't block.
No.
I'll leave it at that. DJ Moore is still DJ Moore. I think another big thing that could be good for them. I mean, they brought on Dennis Allen as their defensive coordinator. That's a veteran defensive mind. I mean, that's not some new guy that's getting called up who, has been rising in the rank. Dennis Allen, very competent defensive mind over the years. I could really see him doing a great job for them. I think, listen, it's a tough division. NFC North is a tough division. 2024 they were. It's never easy, but I think that when you factor all these things in we just talked about, we should see significant improvement. Am I saying the Bears are guaranteed a playoff team? No, I'm not. But I gotta say the arrow is pointing up on the Chicago Bears. So
I love it. I'm going to give you the quick rebuttal. The Bears will only win 4 games because, Ben Johnson has he's never used a quarterback like Caleb Williams that paints outside the numbers, and so they're going to get in there, and he's going to have a system, and Caleb's not going to be able to run it, and they're going to hate each other. And it's going to boil over onto the field. They're going to have a shouting match with each other. The locker room's going to fall apart. There's going to be lots of injuries, and Chicago will go another season without ever having a 4,000-yard passer. And that's how they'll be tailing off. It is a hard sell. There's this team is going up. They're going to sleepwalk into 6 wins. There's almost no way. So that's my rebuttal. So we'll see who's right and who's Ian going forward. Our next team, we're going in alphabetical order. Ian, we're going to talk about the Detroit Lions, and you're going to tell me
all right.
how the Detroit Lions are going to improve on their 15-2 record.
Let me tell you, I think the Detroit Lions, my sleeper team for 2025. I was really hoping it would be tails because I do think they're going to tail off. I don't think the Lions are going to be bad, but you don't just rip off 15 wins year in and year out. And
so what does the 16-1 season look like?
Let's find out, shall we? Okay, well, listen. We can talk all we want about Ben Johnson leaving, which I just sussed up the Bears for hiring him. Ben Johnson's not that great. Okay. No, but at the end of the day, let's be honest. The heartbeat of that culture isn't Ben Johnson. It is Dan Campbell, the kneecap biter himself. And last time I checked, Dan Campbell is still there rolling up to the Lions headquarters with his 2 large black coffees. Okay, He is still driving the boat with that culture. And so he's going to keep them going. They still have, rip off some of the weapons. Jahmyr Gibbs, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Sam Laporta. Again, a guy that I think Jared Goff is a very good quarterback. Their offensive line is still a very good offensive line. They're going to be getting Aiden Hutchinson back. Hopefully he'll be healthy and ready to go. They signed a guy, or rather they drafted a guy that was a draft darling of ours in Tyleik Williams early. We love that early beef. And let me tell you, he's going to bring it. We love Tyleik. Listen, real quick, we have time to talk just a little bit about Tyleik. Listen, is he going to offer you a lot of juice and pass rush right now? Probably not.
No.
But if you are looking for the guy that day one immediately beefs up your run defense, I don't think there was a better guy than Tyleik. We're just talking purely from a run defense perspective. And if you look at the way that the league is kind of trending back towards running the ball, listen, I loved that. He is a kneecap biter. He's the type of guy I saw. And honestly, in that vein, let's go on some of these other guys. Tate Ratledge, I think they drafted in round 2. That you can't create a more Dan Campbell player in a lab. Miles Frazier, I think, also went a few rounds later. Excellent lineman from LSU, I believe.
Yeah.
They had a good draft.
Dude, what you need sacks for? You got Aiden Hutchinson for sacks.
I'm saying, brother. Now listen, I think DJ Reed. They added DJ Reed.
Mhm.
So they've added some nice pieces. I know everybody is going to. We can't discount losing Ben Johnson, but the guy they brought in to replace John Morton, now he's not Ben Johnson. I'm not saying that he's Ben Johnson, but I
Mhm.
will tell you this: I did when he came to Denver. I kind of looked up like what's the story on this John Morton guy, and the only other time he was an actual play caller, from my understanding, was with the Jets in 2017. And while the overall offensive rankings were not good. I think they finished like 24th in points and 28th in yards or something like that, or maybe
Mhm.
reverse that. Um, he got respectable individual seasons out of Josh McCown,
Mhm.
Bilal Powell, Jermaine
Mhm.
Curse, Robbie Chosen, then Robbie
Mhm.
Anderson. He was not working with a lot, and while overall the offense wasn't impressive, he got a lot out of individual guys. Well, now he's coming to a place that is not lacking in talent. It's like an embarrassment of riches over there in terms of offensive talent. Uh, I think that while he might not be the genius down to down play caller that Ben Johnson is, he's got experience. And this team can keep it going because Dan Campbell is still the heart and soul of the Detroit Lions. And so, all of that being said, watch your Detroit Lions roll to 16 wins in 2025.
16-1, baby. What's so funny is that, like, I think, to be honest, we haven't even touched on the reason that I think if the Lions are going to do better next year, the reason it's going to be is because their defense had the same like injury percentage as like a unit of French soldiers in World War One,
They
like
they
the front lines.
they were. That's a great point. They were losing guys left and right. And here's the bummer though is then we talk about and they kept going, but then we walk ourselves into the whole thing of like Aaron Glenn really kept those guys going, and
Going
Aaron Glenn's gone too.
the brain drain. Yeah, that's the thing is the Lions last. It's so sad that they did not win at all last year because last year was
Mm-hmm.
really it felt like the year for them. This feels like for us as Broncos fans, this feels like missing out in 2013 or in 2014, where it was like oh, like
What's gonna happen now?
it felt like that was
Yep.
it for us. And um, but the same thing for Denver. What really turned it around was we got injury luck in 2015.
We
And
did.
the only person we had hurt all of 2015 was Peyton Manning. And honestly, that was injury like it was
Yeah.
it- um
That's an outlier season. That's such a unique
yeah,
season.
it was a unique season, but
Yeah.
that's you need something like that from the Lions to see them improve because their season was so good.
Yeah.
They lost their offensive coordinator and their defensive coordinator. They lost their center that's very good and Frank Ragnow retired. Some people
That is
some
true.
people some
Yeah. I
people
forgot about that.
got real out of pocket online and started throwing around Hall of Fame stuff. No, but a very good center. Frank Riley, we gotta
Yeah.
uh
He is. He's
a-
really good.
and so those sort of cerebral
And
positions you're going to see the
I think
first
they
half of the season
lost.
at very least. It's going to be really tough. Can they still win the Super Bowl? Absolutely. This team, if they get if their offense is 75% of what it was last year and their defense is healthy,
Yeah.
they almost should win the Super Bowl. Like they're one of my strong Super Bowl picks to say, okay, well
Okay.
this team, they're up there.
You
So
should have been the one arguing for heads up then.
I know I was
Yeah.
prepared. This game's doing us dirty. I was ready to show, but they're not going 16-1. I know that for certain.
You got me.
Uh,
You won that one.
up next, the Green Bay Packers, and this is where the game actually gets interesting because Ian,
Yeah.
you're going to tell
This is
me
interesting.
that the Green Bay Packers are tailing off.
Okay. I can work with that. So I like the Green Bay Packers. I like what they've got right now. I like Jordan Love. I like Matt LaFleur. Um, I think we've seen some good football from their team. They will tail off because while we just talked about how we think the Lions probably will regress, they're still going to be a good team. We think the Bears are on the rise. Little spoiler, whether I get to talk about it or not, I think the Vikings will continue to be a very good football team. So the Packers might get lost in that shuffle a little bit. I know they drafted Matthew Golden. There's a lot made of the Packers finally spending first round capital on a wide receiver. I like Matthew Golden. Is it enough to be that, that big nudge, that they need? I don't know. I feel like as far as like transactions, I'm not as clued into what the Packers did. I know they just lost Jair Alexander. I I don't know. I'm not saying I don't think he's a good player still, but he was not the Jair Alexander that he once was.
Hmm.
So
He
things
just
like that.
wasn't healthy. Like they
Yeah,
didn't cut Jair Alexander. They actually decided to have four less games of Jair Alexander than normal. Like,
right, right. Um, so yeah, I think caught in that tough division. I don't know that uh, additions they have made jump out at me as much as some of the other teams in their division. So for me it's tough with Green Bay, because if you told me they're gonna in 2025 they're gonna go 11-6 again, that wouldn't shock me at all. But ultimately, I think they probably do with their division looking to be so competitive. They probably at least go down a couple games, and so I think they're tailing off.
mm. Well, I say buy all the Green Bay Packers stock you can,
Mm.
because I'm telling you why they're going to head up. They're heading up because they have for the last couple of years been the youngest team in the league across the board. That roster is only going to get better. It's a bunch of young boys. It's a summer camp squad. They're hanging out in the cabins and creating lifelong memories and friendships, and um, they're growing together. It has a college feel, and they're improving across the board. I think Jordan Love, this is like the make or break year for him. Will the milk spoil, or will the cream rise to the top? I don't know if that's an effective
Hmm.
dairy analogy, but if it breaks right for him, like
I like how you used dairy, but you didn't use cheese, which is what, yeah,
there we go.
there it is.
Uh, the but honestly, like if he can if he can just honestly have the same positives and just get rid of
Yeah,
some of just the
I
boneheaded
like,
interceptions, right?
I want to be clear. I do like Jordan Love. And one
Hmm.
thing I like about Jordan Love is every now and then he will do something. He prescribes to the ethic of you can do dumb things on the football field as long as they look so cool.
Yeah, it's like every time Jordan Love drops back, God flips a coin, and and we'll see. I don't know who it was that was explaining it, but I heard Jordan Love explained as like every time he gets up off the bench, he's like, "Am I going to be Aaron Rodgers or Brett Favre?" And a lot of times he's both. So if he can clean up his game and get rid of some of the dumb mistakes, that's a team that all of a sudden that offense is a lot more stable. His receiving core, as much as we made fun of you, like they talked about, we don't need a number one receiver. They all have gotten another year of experience, and they're
Yep,
going to have a lot of good weapons.
it's true.
Will that defense be able to stop the running game? I have no idea. And like we
Yeah.
talked about, the league is heading that way. That's going to be tough. I know I'm supposed to be saying they're heading up, but I gotta get this is my hot Green Bay take is
Okay.
Matthew Golden is wide receiver crypto coin. He's a crypto wide
Okay.
receiver. I don't
Okay.
I don't s- I don't
Wow.
see it, man. I
What do you
don't
what do
see
you
it.
not like about him?
So what if I told you there was a wide receiver who his biggest selling point in the draft was the man ran a 4.2940.
Come on.
And then
Come
and then
on.
no, 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 no. And then in college you're like, "Oh, so like he had all these like massive deep touchdowns. He was a super good deep threat." Oh no, he actually like never really caught the ball more than like 35 yards down the field.
Okay.
Like
You hanging him on the cross for Quinn Ewers' sins. Okay.
I
Listen.
just but it
No,
just
that's
like
fine.
never happened.
I
It
like,
never happened.
I respect
So
the take. I respect the take. Hey,
I
do
don't
you
know. Yeah.
remember, just because we're talking about Packers receivers, what was the thing that happened? I think it was earlier this offseason. Josh Jacobs like said something on like social media about like we need to get a real wide receiver one or something like
we got like
that.
like hey
Just
man,
like complete.
sometimes just don't sometimes just don't say anything.
Oh man, that's
Sometimes
funny.
be boring. But
Man, I love it.
yeah, I think I have no this take. It's largely just vibes. I don't know. Like I watched
Okay,
Matthew Golden, and I was like, doesn't feel like it. So I could be totally
okay,
wrong.
that's fair.
I've had this feeling about guys
That's fair.
before. The last the last time I had a take like this was I was notably down on Justin Jefferson.
Well, and now
but
here we are. Speaking
but
of Justin Jefferson,
speaking of Justin Jefferson, the Minnesota Vikings,
mm,
14-3
all right,
last
flip that
year
coin. Let's see what I'm doing here.
with Sam. They did lose Sam Darnold though,
Now
and
I'm thinking. Okay, let's see.
wow, four in a row. Tell me why they're heading up.
Why they're heading up? Well,
Yeah.
no, I said that the Packers were tailing off.
Oh,
So
okay.
I
Okay.
I originally wanted heading up because I was like, I think the Vikings are going to be better. And then I saw it go to Minnesota Vikings here at the corner of our screen that they're 14-3. I was like, oh yeah, wait a minute, hold on. But hey, this is what I asked for. So I made the bet and I'm going to lie in it. Okay, why the Vikings are heading up? Listen, JJ McCarthy is Kevin O'Connell's guy. He's the Bo Nix to Kevin Sean Payton.
Mm,
Okay. This is a guy they moved up in the draft to get him. Okay. Whether Sean Payton baited him or not, we'll never know. But he moved up to get his guy. And as like so lame as this sounds to say, he looked good in what little preseason we saw of him.
hmm
Um, yeah, I mean, I don't know. They still have their offensive core intact. Well, and they added to it, right? Like Will Fries and
Yeah.
Andrew Kelly, right? They added both of those guys. Um, so I mean, look. Oh, and Donovan Jackson. They drafted Donovan Jackson from Ohio
Yes.
State. They still got Brian Flores. I mean, one of the best defensive coordinators in the NFL. And I don't see the defense really taking a step back. I mean, they were the big spenders early. I mean, they got Javon Hargrave, and John Allen from
hmm
Washington. They added to that line. I might even be missing some guys that they added. So I don't see their defense falling off, especially with that continuity. I think continuity on offense everywhere, but obviously JJ's the big question mark. Listen, uh, we're going to see a lot of shots next season of JJ sitting up against the goalpost before the game. He's going to be locked in. He knows. Listen, he knows. He's throwing to Jettas. He's throwing to Jordan Addison. He's throwing to TJ Hawkinson. Okay. This is a talented team. And Kevin O'Connell is going to put JJ in the driver's seat, best position to succeed. So they're gonna be the 15-win team next season, I guess, per what I'm saying right now.
Per what? Yeah. I mean, listen, that's all well and good, Ian. But have you considered this? Uh, JJ McCarthy, all we've ever seen him do in his career is be set up with a really, really good head coach and lots of really good weapons and be asked to manage an offense where he doesn't have to be the star. And sure, that's exactly what we're going to watch him do in Minnesota. But has he done it at the NFL level? Yes, when we saw him do it for the one preseason game, but otherwise we have no idea. So uh, they're tailing off for two reasons. Number one, they're going to go through having to uh, you know create a system for a rookie quarterback and get him used to it. So early in the season,
Yep.
they're going to be dropping a couple games. And number two, uh, that defense that Brian Flores ran, was it was it the Jimmies and the Joes, or was it the X's and the O's? I think a lot of it
Mm,
was scheme based. And the thing about scheme is that it's great, but it is a little bit volatile year to year. Is the league going to be ready for it? Are the offenses going to have a counterpunch to it? Will they simply run the ball against a Minnesota team that I'm feeling off this defense? I just don't feel like they're super awesome against the run. I don't feel like Minnesota was
yeah.
great against the run. I am up here on a podcast.
That's why you add some of the additions you did though in the offseason.
Yeah.
Some of those Hargrave and John Allen.
They Hargrave though too old. So they're tailing off.
Listen. The Minnesota Vikings are winning 15 games next year. Okay.
No, dude,
I will
they're
say
not
this.
winning.
One thing too, and maybe you were on your way to making this point. I don't know if you were or not. Well, I keep forgetting this about the Vikings. They won only 3 games last year by 7 or more points, I believe. Like if you recall, like they were in a lot of real close games. They could have gone either way. And for just as kind of a cover our bases for all of these NFC North teams, I know I looked up the other day. So the Lions have 11 games next year against 2024 playoff teams. So I would imagine everyone else in the division, it's very similar, all being in the same division, and some of those teams are in your division as well. So it's going to be tough for all of these teams. It's a good division, but sometimes we see these really good divisions also kind of eat each other alive. It'll be interesting to see what we get out of the NFC North this year.
Yeah, the NFC North is going to be an absolute bloodbath this year. It's an exciting division. Really quick, just to end here, Ian, who do you have winning the NFC North next year if you had to take a stab at it?
Man, that's tough. I didn't know you were going to ask me that.
I didn't either.
That's kind of, but that I should have known. Like that's kind of like on The Office when Kevin sits on Michael's lap when he's being Santa Claus. He's like, "What do you want for Christmas?" He's like, "I didn't know you were going to ask me that." Like, what do you think was going to happen? I would say, man, I don't know. I'm going to go ahead and say the Minnesota Vikings. I am. I know all the reasons that it could go south for them, but just when you think about how high the vibes are for this franchise right now, Kwesi just got an extension. Kwesi Adofo-Mensah, their GM. Kevin O'Connell just got an extension. They're excited about McCarthy. They have got a great offensive infrastructure in terms of personnel. Their defense seems like they're going to be in good shape. I think, if I had to guess, I'm going to go with the Minnesota Vikings. What would you say?
That's cool. I'm also going to go with the Minnesota Vikings. And you had a lot of really good reasons. Straight up, I feel in my body that that they upgraded at the quarterback position this year.
Okay.
Like Sam Darnold was so good last year. I feel like McCarthy's going to be a better quarterback than him, and that probably has a lot to do with all that I watched about Sam Darnold beforehand. And I'm just like wish casting, but I see McCarthy and I go, that's a man who's not going to just blindly throw interceptions anytime there's pressure. And if you do that with the so much of the cast, like there's not the brain drain in the building like you've seen from the Lions. There's no new guys in with the Bears. The Bears are just building. The Packers feel like it could go south pretty bad with them if they don't get better across the board, because they're kind of like Jordan Love is just right there, and a lot of their skill position players, like it could get really tense for them if it doesn't start off really well for them. The Vikings, I feel like, are positioned to end up getting there, and what's best for them is that they don't have that first place schedule like Detroit has. So that's my guess. But my further prediction is wherever they end up, one and done in the playoffs. So they're set up. They're set up to go outside again. But this is a good first episode. I think solid.
I think so.
We initially shot for 30 minutes. We went an hour, and that's all right because I had fun. I hope you had fun.
Hey, listen, Vikings, Lions, Bears, Packers fans who are listening, if we covered something you don't agree with, hit us up in the comments. Okay,
hit us up in the comments.
Hit us up in the comments. Let us know where we went wrong. I'm sure we got a lot of those.
Email us if you have a question at longdistancekickspod at gmail at longdistancekickspod@gmail.com if you have any problems. But besides that, man, thank you so much for listening to Long Distance Kicks, where, man, it's always good.
We'll see you next time, everybody.